This is heavy.
Eric, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
Very interested in the Firehouse community and everything that you have going on. You invited me to the documentary premiere that you guys had at the Sidewalk. What was that, last night?
It was
night
2
before?
nights ago.
How did that go?
It was great. Yeah. I'm still kind of decompressing from the whole thing. It was just like a one-of-a-kind event. It was a 3-part documentary that we've been making all year, and we showed it in the Sidewalk theaters, and there's 2 theaters back to back, and because there were so many people there, we had to run the show twice.
Oh, really?
Wow. And so, well, I mean, what made it crazy was that there are 3 parts of this documentary, and they incorporate in between each. There was a performance of some kind. So like Taylor Hollingsworth and his wife Kate played a song together. We played a Blip song with 2 of my students in the band, and at the end, me and a bunch of my students played a song together, and Shaheed and Supreme kicked it off.
Yeah.
And so it was just this mad dash. Everyone that was performing was having to run from theater 1 to theater 2 and back and forth. It was completely insane, and but really fun. And there was not like, I mean, there were tears shed at the end of this thing, and kids will remember that night for their whole lives, hopefully.
Dude,
some like first performances and stuff like that. So
like in front of like a big audience,
a massive audience.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
that would be intimidating.
Yeah, one of my students that I've gotten really close to over the past year, it was his first time to ever play and sing in front of people.
Dude, that's
and his mom was there, and he just killed it. I mean, he
Knocked
was
it out of
awesome.
the park.
I mean, of course he did, and I taught it. Of course he was great. And
humble brag.
Right, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It was just great. It's just like so awesome to watch that moment unfold. So,
dude, that's epic. I saw pictures of it. You invited me, and unfortunately, I had prior engagement, so I couldn't come. But
yeah,
I saw photos. It was either yesterday or this morning. And yeah, I saw people like down front performing, but you're in like a theater, and so the documentary, and I was just like, okay, what is going on here?
It's funny. Wild. I know. I was trying to send out an email to everyone, to all of our supporters and subscribers that may or may not have been able to make it, and I was trying to describe it for people that weren't there, and I was like, man, there's really nothing you can say to describe exactly what this event was like. So it was just really cool.
So for people who couldn't be there, describe the documentary part of it. Will that be available on some other platform?
It will. It's gonna, one part of it is up on our YouTube channel right now. We're about to put the other two parts up, and probably I will make a post about that. I assume that's what you do now when you do anything, is make a post about it.
Yeah, man. You got to get it out there.
Social presence.
Very important. And we have a YouTube channel, so you'll be able to find it on there. And basically, one of my best friends ever since I was in first grade, named Justin Schubert, has this company called Studio Modern, and he did just this phenomenal job of documenting everything that has happened at the space over the last year and a half since we became a nonprofit. And he just tells the story kind of how it is in 3 parts of where we're coming from, what we're doing, and what we're trying to do in the future. And, it's a big fundraiser, so hopefully we'll be successful in that. We were really successful last year when we raised some money to build out the upstairs of the building to turn into a teaching facility. And now our goal is to build a recording studio next door that's going to fulfill our mission for a lot of young musicians, be be a accessible space where anyone can record, basically. So you don't have to come down to your basement or whatever.
Yeah, man. Now, is that what's the space next door? Is it an adjacent building?
Yeah, there's an adjacent building. If you've ever been to the Firehouse, there's this kind of shady-looking house.
I've seen it, like kind of right there, right as you walk up. The Firehouse is on the right before you get to like Ferris and stuff.
Right. It's just like a terrible.
I figured somebody lived there.
Well, at some point, someone did.
Okay.
But it's at this point, it's just kind of a storage room. But it's like 400 square foot little space that's perfect for a recording studio, and that's the goal of this fundraiser, is to piece that together, get enough money together where we can build that studio. I'm pretty confident that we can make it happen and do with it what we try to do with the rest of the space, which is just provide space for people to have access to things like, whether it's the stage, and local bands having access to a stage, if it's the teaching space, neighbors having access to high quality music education, and then of course jobs for people like me and all the other teachers, Will Stewart, Taylor Hollingsworth, anyone who's working as a musician, being able to teach. Not only is it a really fulfilling job, way to make a living, but it's, I think, somebody who's making music for their life is going to be the best person to teach that.
Do you guys already own the building that's next door? Okay. Mm-hmm. So when did that acquirement?
I bought all that.
Oh, it's all under the same.
Yeah.
Originally.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah, I bought all that in 2009.
So was it you that lived there in the side house, or were you upstairs?
I didn't live in the side house.
He wasn't the sketchy neighbor.
Yeah, it was my sketchy neighbor.
Okay.
Friend and sketchy friend, sketchy neighbor. And yeah, I lived upstairs until like exactly 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good starting point. Take me back to having this, what is amounted lately to a prime spot right here in the booming Avondale area, and having that awesome building. And tell my brother kind of schooled me on it a few years ago when we moved to this area. I remember hanging out in Avondale and not really knowing what that building was. I always see the mural on the side.
Dude, the Firehouse is a staple. That's the only reason back when we would go to like hardcore shows and stuff years and years ago, it's like, oh, we're going to the Firehouse. Like, where is that? Like, that's how I know Avondale. That's how I know this part of Birmingham. That's how I know Irondale is coming to the Firehouse.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Well, I can tell you it didn't used to be the way it is now in Avondale. Sure. And that's why I could afford to live there. Okay. And I mean, also, just to be very real, just being a white dude helps you have access to things that most people don't have access to.
Yeah.
And I was in a position in my life where.
How old were you?
I was 24.
24 years old?
Yeah.
Wow. And you're like, I'm going to go buy a building.
Well, again, at that time, most people that knew me were like, why in the hell are you doing this? And, all the comments that you normally get when you do
friends
something.
and loved ones are like, don't
They're concerned. Yeah.
Exactly. This is a bad investment. Don't do this.
It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
And that's like largely a product of people's other issues. But anyway, I was not very old, and it was very cheap. And my goal was, at that time, I had just graduated from Birmingham Southern a couple years before, and I was I was working at a restaurant from like 5 a.m. till 2 p.m, and then I would go teach guitar lessons, driving around to people's houses all afternoon, and then I was playing in band, so I'd like have band practice or play a show every night. It's kind of like how most people's life is when they're a post grad musician, trying to be a musician or whatever.
Just gigging and playing where you can.
Just playing where you can, trying to make it work. And I grew up here and Cave 9 was such a big part of my life
Oh,
growing
yeah,
up.
I got fond memories of
Yeah,
Cave 9, man.
most people do. Most old folks like us do, and that place from coming there as like a 16-year-old, and having a place where your band could play, and you could feel like what you were doing mattered in some way. It like legitimized what you were doing. It made being in a band seem real in a weird way. And looking back, Aaron Hamilton, who ran that place, was doing it like anybody else would run a DIY venue, which is just out of the complete. Nobody's making any money. It's just your time, and you're open the door, and you're giving the stage and the microphone to some young person, and understanding that as well as I could have as a 16-year-old was one thing, but then looking back, it's like, oh yeah, I mean that's a pretty amazing thing for a city to have.
How long did Cave 9 last? Do you know?
You'd have to check Aaron
to get
on this,
Aaron
but
on
I think
here. That'd be
7 or
cool.
8 years. It would be great. Yeah. Nobody wants to hear me pontificate about this kind of stuff, but he would be the godfather.
Sure.
I would think. So that space went through the many different iterations that it went through at the end, and didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I had about 3 goals. I was also interning at Operation New Birmingham, which is now Rev.
Because so this is pre-Rev.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Familiar
so,
with Rev in general. I don't really know.
Yeah,
exactly what they
I
do.
was interested. I had like some interest in city planning and development. I thought maybe I'd go back to school for that.
Be a civil engineer.
I didn't do it. So, but I was like just interested in how public-private partnerships work and how cities work from that standpoint. So, and I from that experience, I was more familiar with a lot of the different neighborhoods of Birmingham, because Avondale, like you said earlier, was not really a place anyone would go to hang out.
That's right.
I did live in an apartment in just up the street in Forest Park at this time, but Avondale was like 4 blocks yet a world away, which is sort of the whole problem to begin with. But I wanted, back to my goals, I wanted to have a space that I could live in, a space that I could centralize all of my teaching.
So you're teaching guitar lessons and
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
And gigging around town, and obviously music is your passion.
Yeah.
And so, okay, yeah.
And I'm like touring every chance I can get to, and all these jobs sort of fit with that kind of life. So, that's what I did with the building, and we built a stage and started letting bands play there too. Just got this space. And
How'd you find the building? I mean, I know
I was
you were
riding my bike
familiar,
by it
you
one
just
day, and
saw
there's
it.
a sign on the side.
For sale.
For sale. Historic Firehouse. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Even though it was back in the day before the boom that is Avondale today, I can't imagine a 2-story building for a 24-year-old really being in arm's reach, though. It seems like I'd see a for sale sign and be like, man, that'd be cool. All right, I'm going to keep on going. I would never think, like, I can make this happen. Like, that's pretty ambitious,
I mean, you can probably drive less than 10 minutes from here and make it happen if you're a 24-year-old. I mean, like
another building.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it wouldn't you wouldn't have a grilled cheese factory across the street.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you landed in the building. You were able to work that out. Was that pretty seamless process?
Well,
what's it like buying a building as a 24-year-old?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of like asking your parents to help you out, which again, that's your
Can you take out a second mortgage on the house and invest in this building with me?
That's your privilege as somebody who, like, I said it earlier, just like white dude from the suburbs, but like having a supportive family is a privilege.
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely.
And I mean, waking up every day knowing that there are people out there that aren't going to let you starve and die in a ditch is a privilege.
Yeah, we take that for granted.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh God, yeah. So anyway, I had a friend who did a little bit of construction, and
how bad was the building when you first walked in?
It wasn't that it was bad. It was just there wasn't anything there. There was just a little room. There was a bathroom and a little kitchen. So I went to Mazer's and got a little scratch and dent fridge, built a couple of partition walls so that I could have roommates. And I think talked to like 26 or so people in this town that lived with me at some point.
Who wouldn't want to live at the Firehouse? It would be awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Well, it's less awesome than you think because there's like loud bands playing downstairs. It's like kind of like an oven upstairs because yeah. Yeah, very hot in the summertime, no shade. 120-year-old building.
Now, I assume it used to be a firehouse of some kind, a working.
It did. It was built by
fire department.
Yeah, it was a government building in 1890 is when it was built.
1890. Wow.
Yeah. There are very few records at the county about it, but I have found I found a lot of really cool pictures from around the early 40s when it was a garment factory.
So it's gone through several iterations. Since a working fire department.
Most recently, before I bought it, it had been a barber shop downstairs and some kind of just office space upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you buy the building, you promptly move in. I guess it was livable, at least enough for you to.
I had
You said you went out and bought a fridge, and you're like, I'm set. I got a fridge, a microwave.
Well, I mean, I was not very old. And God, geez, I could still, if I wasn't married, I could sleep on that rug over there.
Sure, yeah. You don't have very high standards.
Very low.
24-year-old.
And God bless Katie, my wife, for bringing me into civilization and the rest of humanity.
So when you first got the place, I guess you turned the upstairs into like kind of an apartment for you and your roommates.
Yeah.
And then the downstairs, it was always the goal to turn that into a music venue. How long did that last before the transition into what the Firehouse is now?
Well, it lasted.
Or what was the catalyst that kind of sparked the whole starting the nonprofit and, that whole story?
Great question. So a lot happened in that neighborhood over a decade. And, I went from being 24 to 34 and toured a lot, saw a lot of the world, got married. Katie moved in with me. A lot of things happened over that time, and one of them was that everything else that happened in Avondale happened. There were.
What was the first thing? Do you remember?
The first big thing. The first big thing that felt like
oh, okay.
Yeah, like my friends were like, oh, okay, so you live near that, was when Parkside opened, and when I first moved there, Parkside was almost open. I want to say, and you'll probably have to check me on this, but I want to say it was like late fall of 2009 that it would have opened. It was weird.
There for a long time, yeah.
Yeah, it was weird because when it opened, it was like table service kind of bar.
Wow.
Yeah, not for very long. I think they figured it out.
Yeah.
And well, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, Parkside was first, and then Kobe opened the Avondale Brewery maybe a year after that, and then all hell broke.
Everything followed, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty soon you can get a 1920s themed $16 drink next door.
Yeah.
Yeah. But observing all of those things, number one, as a neighbor, was one experience. Outside of, some of my own personal growth that I described. Also, as a teacher, which is what I was doing for income, it didn't take very long for me to be able to quit my restaurant job and just teach and play, which is awesome in and of itself. But just looking around and noticing that every single one of my students was a white kid was kind of a hard thing to reconcile with everything else that I believe, and with regards to access to music and access to music education.
Sure.
And I mean, it makes sense, if you want to learn how to play guitar from somebody, like somebody has to get paid, right? That's how it works.
Gotta have a guitar, I would guess.
Gotta have a guitar,
Music
and God
instruments aren't
knows
cheap.
you can buy as many as you want. And that being in that neighborhood with all of those things swirling around and happening as they did, becoming older myself, and also understanding my place as a neighbor and as a member of a community, it didn't really seem very equitable to be just to be doing this for anyone that could afford it, no matter who they
You
were.
didn't feel like you were serving the community that you were in.
Right, but that's the only way
yeah.
to get it done, because I have to
Sure,
make money.
yeah, okay.
So
Sure,
that's
okay, how can I do both?
Yeah. So eventually, in the back of my mind, I started thinking about how life would look if I didn't live there, what I could do with upstairs. And as you can probably imagine, there are many things I could do. I could, I don't know. I guess I could be sitting on the beach right now. I could sell it to.
You get a lot of people
It's
that
pretty nice.
try to buy it out from under you?
Yeah, I could tell some good stories about that, but I'm not going to say, like, everybody always says, like, oh, you're a genius. It's a gold mine.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's only a gold mine if you sell it to somebody.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, it's a pile of bricks. And so I got a pile of bricks. It's great. I love it.
But yeah, I can imagine people be beating down the door.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah,
Trying
it's
to-
funny.
trying to get you
It
to
is.
sell.
I've definitely taken a few people up on like a.
Let me take you out to Roots Chris.
Right.
Well, it's never been Roost Chris. It's usually Melt, but
Let me take you across.
Let me
the
just
street.
hear you out.
hey, I can run up a tab at Melt.
Dude, yeah, man.
Anyway, it's always pretty funny too. There was one guy. There's no. I don't even know who this guy was. He won't listen to this, but he said, first, it was when I was about to get married. He was like, "Now, Eric, let me tell you a little something about women." I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
great."
She is not going to live in this old building that you're living in.
Well, he was. Yeah, right. He was like, "They value security." I said, "Okay, great." And he's like, "How about I offered you many, 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 many dollars, and you blah 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 blah." I was like, "Well, okay, I see that's what you. What would you do with this building if you had it?" And he said, "Have you ever heard of warehousing?" And I was like, "What is that?" He said, "That's where you buy up a bunch of property and then just let it sit there." I was like, "Wow,
So that's what he wanted
that's
to do.
cool."
Just let it be a dilapidated building and
Right.
hope that somebody else
Somebody
came
else.
and buys
Right.
it out from under him.
Yeah. So, that's a thrilling thing to think about.
Still, man, that's pretty awesome that you believe in.
Stuck
you
it
got your
out,
values and like you didn't let a big paycheck sway you and just.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if I'd be strong enough to. I'd be like, "Ooh, dude, what could I do with that money? That'd be awesome."
I don't know. Again, privilege of having a supportive bunch of people, wife, now a kid, a mom and a dad that are not, generationally wealthy by any means, but just again, like the privilege of knowing that you don't have
Right.
to, I don't know, that you're not gonna be able to fall into a gutter hard enough without somebody that cares about you pulling you out.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
That's a privilege, and I think that's a big thing. I know I've mentioned it 3 or 4 times now, but I don't think people think about that enough.
Sure.
When they're thinking about neighbors and like wondering why people don't act right or act the way they think that people should act. And it's, if you don't have that kind of support system in your life, whatever that is, then you can't really make decisions based on your values as much.
It's more like, hey, I just got to make decisions to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't mean that as a pass to somebody who does something criminal to get by, but
Sure,
but I kind of do.
You kind of understand it more or on a deeper level.
I mean, I think if you try hard enough, you can understand almost anything that another person does. But I thank you for saying that about my values or whatever, but I don't really, I don't think it's like a reflection on me being any way other than just a person who's lucky enough to be able to lean on values. That's all.
Well said. I get you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, the whole support network, we kind of talked about that. Like, I think that's something, a lot of people take for granted. And it's kind of eye-opening. I've had friends and stuff that have moved across the country by themselves, and then they kind of get an eye-opener when they get there and realize that they don't really have the support that they did back home. They realize just how hard it is just to get by, and maybe in a small way, that's kind of an example of like, wow, I can't, I'm broke down on the side of the road. I don't have anybody to call to come help me. Whereas, if I had a family network that I'd built over my lifetime, that'd be an easy situation to get out of. Versus somebody who's like, doesn't have that support infrastructure there,
and I mean, how many times
sense?
Like Taylor and I were riding home the other day, and he was telling me a story about that just like was so it was such a little microcosm of this exact thing you're talking about. He was telling the story about how when he was driving Uber, he was always taking people from North Avondale, the Tom Brown Village in North Avondale, to their job at Walmart. It was like a beaten path, always taking people to work.
Really?
And everyone would always tell him like, oh, yep, they'll only let me work 28 hours a week because it doesn't hit it. That keeps me from being over some threshold where the pay rate goes up. And so this 28 whatever hour work week is divided into so many tiny little shifts, and then you're Ubering there and you're Ubering back. Brutal. And so when you get into
your money's just eaten up.
You're spending 50 cents to try and make $1, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Right. So I mean, it makes plenty of sense if you're a true capitalist, but it sucks, I guess, is what I'm saying. And yeah, like how do you get your foot off of the wheel for long enough to care? That's a tough thing.
Well, going back to the Firehouse and wanting to do more for the community, at what point did you guys decide, hey, maybe a nonprofit is something we could look into? Or
it was probably a couple of years before I moved that the idea first came to me, and I started doing some.
Did you have friends that worked in nonprofits, or anybody that could kind of guide you a little bit?
I did, and oh man, I'll get to the friends I've built up around me for this that are board members and support because true community center couldn't do it without other people. But anyway, that's how the idea came to fruition. It's like, all right, how can I raise enough money to pay teachers and give scholarships. That's the general idea.
Did you have other friends that were like, "Oh, you're teaching all these lessons, man. I'd like to do that. You know, that'd be cool."
I mean, like yeah, sure, yes, but not in a way that that was very meaningful, I don't think. And so when I really started putting this into motion was when we moved out. So that's when I started assembling a board, which is what you have to do when you start a nonprofit.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's like to
either.
have a board.
Well, it's pretty great. So Janet Simpson was one of the first people that I approached, and I don't know if y'all know.
I do not. What's her background?
She is a great musician and also works for the Crisis Center. She's one of the owners of Shoe Shop downtown.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
She put out just this amazing record this last year that's really great.
All right, Jan, I'm sorry I didn't know who you were.
Yeah, well, come on, man.
Yeah, I got to get it together. It's hard to know everybody.
Yeah, well, she's the greatest, and she is is so smart and so helpful in, like you were talking about, someone who has a lot of experience in nonprofit, specifically development. And I reached out to Chris McCauley, who's one of my best friends. He plays in the Blips too. He's just one of the smartest people you would ever know. He's worked in the nonprofit field before, and one of my longtime students' dads, Chris Hines, was another early board member, as well as Tom Galden, who builds the Southside Custom guitars, and who's another just really, really close friend of mine.
Is he on the music shop?
No, but his guitars are there, and Tom's.
Yeah,
you've probably met Tom there before.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Cool. Okay. So
Yes.
these are all acquaintances you already sort of had. And,
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean, yes, definitely,
Just being in the music scene and all that. Yeah.
absolutely. And so that was kind of the core group starting out, and we, I was like at the, right around I remember we had this first meeting in like late January, early February of 2020. Those ambitious dreams.
Perfect time to launch a new project.
Exactly.
And so the whole, the world kind of, everything happened the way it happened. And my Chris quit his job and basically came to me one day and just said, like, hey, man, I just really believe in what you're doing, and I am kind of good for a minute, so I'm going to work for you. And that was awesome. So during the entire, like, hardcore early pandemic, when there was nothing going on, Chris and I were just, we were just working regular work days, laying the foundation for the nonprofit. And it's just a lot of work that nobody would ever want to do.
Sure.
And I mean, I think Chris said it to me a million times. He was like, I'm good at this stuff, man. Like, I'll help you with all of this stuff. And God, he did.
Is it just a lot of paperwork just to get it
Yeah,
started?
I mean,
a lot of red tape, I'm sure.
Just take whatever you have in your mind and multiply it by 25.
Okay. All right. Guess I won't be starting a nonprofit anytime soon. Maybe
Well, I mean,
maybe I'll seek your advice if I do.
yeah, I definitely could give you some now, but I went into it knowing a little bit about what, like, not necessarily totally green, but knowing a little bit of what I needed to do. But, you know, being a little bit intimidated by the process, and also really mindful of what I was doing already with all of my students. I think was pretty special. I built up like a really great network of people that I honestly consider family. Some of my students that I was teaching 15 years ago,
wow,
are like, I mean, you know, they're off living their lives now, and they're like brothers to me, brothers and sisters. So, and that's very real. That's like the connections that you make with people playing music are what life is kind of all about for me. And so, not only seeing those relationships play out in my own life, but between myself and my students, has been very, very, very special. So I didn't want this taking it to another level mean losing any of that. And this group of folks that has been behind me the whole way, and our board's grown as we've grown, they have done such an amazing job of just staying behind the whole mission and recognizing what was already good about what was going on at the Firehouse. And I think what was so special to me about the event on Tuesday was stepping back, seeing where we are, and seeing that, wow, okay, it's at the point where we have this facility, we have these awesome musicians working here, we have a really connected and diverse group of students that are in the space learning and creating music together, and we are truly making those connections, and we're forming those relationships just on a bigger scale, and we haven't lost any of that stuff that made my work special in the beginning. So that's, to me, that is a testament to how great of an organization that we've put together really is, that we haven't lost any of that.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm sure it's really cool, you know, like you said, being at that event 2 nights ago at the sidewalk, and kind of just seeing maybe some of the fruits of the labor, you know, of everything. And
that's gotta be together. A great feeling.
Oh man, it was an extremely stressful feeling while it was going on, but yeah.
Dude, I'm psyched to see that, man. I want to watch some of that documentary. That's cool.
Well, yeah, you're gonna love the documentary, but man, God, just being there was so awesome. And yeah, I can't tell you how cool it is and how excited I am just to keep on going. Yeah. You know, and watch my friends like Will and Taylor and Stuart and Angela, like everybody, Abby Anderson. Do you all know Abby?
Yeah, she's over at Mom's, right?
Yeah, and she plays in every cool band.
The Bouquets or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's teaching drums. So
okay.
It's like,
sick.
It's just so great to just, I felt like I was hoarding this cool experience of being
I've got all the coolest friends. I got to share them with the world. Yeah.
well, I thought it was so cool that I was like playing music in a band and on, you know, like doing that, but then also able to come home and be teaching it. It just makes so much sense. But it was this experience, like all my other friends was like working in bars, doing whatever else they can. So it's really cool.
Just keep the wheel.
It's great for the space to turn into, and hopefully it will keep moving in this direction, as that's the goal, is for it to be a place where musicians can do what they do.
Yeah.
Play and teach, make a living. A little bit of more far off goal is to be able to give health insurance and just become more and more sustainable source of income for people that play music for a living.
Dude, that's like a golden dream for anybody that wants to play music in town and make it a full-time, you know, gig. And maybe staying local has its benefits instead of having to get out on the road all the time as you get older.
Well, and you know, if you are getting out on the road, then having guitar students is perfect because you can make your own schedule.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty cool about it because it's like, well, who else would I want to learn from than this dude who's like
Playing all this awesome music all over the country.
playing in New Orleans tomorrow or whatever. It's it makes sense.
So what was the decision to move out? I guess the upstairs went through some renovations, getting ready to turn it into the learning space.
Yeah, so that was
I've never
cool.
been upstairs. So what were some of the changes that you guys made, and what does it look like now versus what it used to?
Great question, and I would encourage you or anyone else just to
You
come
guys
in
give
the door.
tours? Can I-
Yeah, I'll give you a
Okay.
tour anytime you want.
Sick. All right.
But yeah, you know, any day after 3 p.m., if you walk in there after school, you're gonna see it in action. It's cool. So upstairs now, when you walk in, in December of 2020, which made this even more incredible, we raised $60,000 on a crowdfunding campaign.
What?
Yeah,
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And again, it was 10 years worth of like just goodwill behind us coming back and saying, we believe in you and go on and do it. So we did, and we built, when you go up there are 3 rooms that are smaller where there's like one-on-one teaching rooms.
Okay.
And then there are 2 rooms that are fully functional band practice rooms. It's drums, keys, bass, guitar, and vocals, a PA, and everything is sound isolated. So you can make as much noise as you want, and someone can be doing the same thing in the next room. And it's a really functional, cool space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So if a new student comes in, do you guys have, like, say I want to be the next, Rush drummer, R.I.P. Neil Peart. But, I mean, do you guys provide your students with instruments that they can use on site?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
okay.
everything. There's a million instruments on site, and also all throughout last year we were doing an instrument drive. I guess we're always doing one. If you have a PV Bandit in your basement that you're trying to get rid of, go ahead and bring it on over.
Sitting there collecting dust, donate it to you guys.
And so we've been able to put a lot of those guitars in the hands of kids that don't have guitars.
Sure.
Which is awesome. Yeah, we even have a bunch of extra drum sets. And last week, I sent a drum set out the door, to somebody's house. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
cool. It's very
I'm sure
cool.
the parents are like, "Oh, great! My
Well,
son wants to be a drummer. This is
yeah.
awesome."
Merry Christmas.
I've also got a little speech I do for anybody who says, I think he or she is interested in drums. I'm like, well,
Okay, let's talk about
think
this.
about that for a
and
second.
what your life is about to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is. That's part of the access. The point in having access is that you don't just have an hour with your teacher. You've got access to the space whenever you want it, because when those rooms aren't being used, you can go use them. And you have an instrument that you can practice on at your house.
Do you guys feel as you expand, do you have any problems with, maybe too many people trying to use it at once, or
it's been
outgrowing
cool.
the space?
It's been cool honestly, the first time that there were 5 lessons going on at once in there,
You're just in the hallway like, this is real. This is
Well, I
happening?
was teaching one of them,
you're
so I
teaching one
couldn't
of
be,
them.
but I
Okay.
did get one of my friends to come by and take a picture because it was like, here
This
we
is
go.
it.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Good feeling. That's
It was
awesome.
a great feeling, and yeah, I mean it's great to have a space where it's to get to the point where you got to schedule things out. And I have found this really cool scheduling app that allows that makes that easy.
So keeps it smooth.
Yeah.
No issues. Yeah. It's my turn to practice guitar.
Right.
Get outta here.
We hadn't had any of that go on yet, but we hopefully we will.
But you guys still do just like shows downstairs.
Yeah.
I know you guys had a lot of stuff going on with Halloween and all that.
Yeah, and the nonprofit does not extend to the Firehouse venue.
So how is that separation, and who operates? How does the venue run?
The venue is fully run by DIY Birmingham.
Okay.
And we have a great symbiotic relationship there.
How many shows do you guys do? Because I know places like Saturn, I mean, they got something going on every night.
Well, it's totally volunteer run. So if any of us are unavailable to book a show, then it doesn't.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't happen.
Okay, I see.
And again, I mean, it's a volunteer run DIY space. Nobody's making any money. I mean,
For the love of the music.
You'd be surprised at the. Well, you probably wouldn't be surprised at the attitude of people that have a band and want to have a place to play. Sometimes it's like, oh, believe it or not, you're not the only guy.
Sure, yeah, man. Well, take it back, man. How did you get into music? Are you a native to Birmingham?
I am, yeah.
I mean, you said you went to Birmingham Southern.
Yeah.
When did you first get into music?
I first started
Long time
playing.
ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. I mean, I took piano lessons like a lot of people do. It was all right.
It was all right.
it was okay.
Was that the same time you got the pinball machine?
Yeah.
Dedicate more time to that.
Exactly. And eventually, my dad played a little guitar, so I got interested in that, and he bought me my first guitar, a burgundy Mexican Fender Stratocaster, which I still have.
Burgundy.
Yes.
Man,
I think it's actually called Wine Red.
sexy.
Very
That's awesome.
and sophisticated.
You
That's
still got
awesome.
it?
I still have it. Yeah. Yeah.
You teach lessons on it? Or you still play with it?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Shout out, Dad.
I'm not a real Strat guy. I'll throw that out there. But I still have it. In fact, it's really funny because last year for Christmas, my friend Justin, who made all the documentaries that I was referencing earlier, that guitar had kind of like passed itself around to so many different people. I didn't really know where it was for a few years. And
I gave it to Bob, and then he let Joe borrow it, and then Joe went to Texas.
And eventually, I mean, there is a void
Yeah.
that things fall into. So I got a lot to think about. I hadn't really thought about it in a long time, but he gave it back to me for Christmas. He was like,
sick.
yeah.
That's
By the
awesome.
way, I still had this, and I got it restrung, and it's cool.
That's awesome.
So my dad bought me that guitar when I was about 13, and I never really took any lessons.
You're just natural born.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah.
Modern day Jimi Hendrix.
Yes,
over here.
thank you for saying that. No,
Dude, I
I'm
was listening to the Blips album, man. That's awesome. I didn't realize you played in that band. And
yeah.
how many?
I
Y'all
do.
just have the one album on Spotify
Yeah.
that I was listening to.
We're getting together next week to start working on another one.
How many bands do you play in currently?
Man,
You got a lot going on, man. I don't see how you play in any band. That's crazy.
I don't either.
Family man, and then you got the nonprofit, and then the
Yeah.
teaching and all that stuff.
I play in the Blips, and that's awesome. I play in a band with Justin and his brother Jason, and we haven't played a show yet, but we're working on something that we're going to put out next year and start playing shows. And I also play in this band called Post Consumer Waste. That's one of my former students, now interns, and is actually teaching drum lessons. His name is Adam Kitchens, and he's just like this immensely talented young dude. It's a punk band that I recorded.
Sure, of course, it's a punk band. Yeah.
Yeah. And he played every instrument on the record. And then he was like, "Man, I gotta start playing some shows eventually."
Just
He's like,
recruit
"Do you know
musicians."
anybody?
Yeah.
Do you know anybody who will play in my band?" And I was like, "Well, try these people." Like, well, so and so can't play drums. So and so else can't play drums. And finally, he asked me to play drums, which is a testament to how low the drummer pool is. And
Birmingham needs more drummers. you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
well, that's what I'm doing with my life is training more drummers, so I don't have to play in people's bands.
There you go. All right.
So I play drums in his band. We're playing a show on Sunday, and it's a really good band.
That's awesome, man. I'll check it out.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if I play in any other bands.
That's
too many to
that's
count.
too many bands, man. You can't even keep them straight.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a lot going on, but
But the blips seem to be kind of your primary focus, I guess.
yeah, and it's fun. It's nothing but fun.
Do y'all have any shows coming up?
Yeah, we're playing on New Year's Eve
Ooh.
at
Okay.
the Firehouse.
At the Firehouse. All right.
We're gonna ring in the new year, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the band Model Citizen.
Not right offhand. Do
Well,
recall?
when I was in my early days, it was my favorite Birmingham band. It's Matt Patton, who plays in the Drive-By Truckers now. He's the guitar player, and it's 3-piece, just rock and roll band, and they're killer.
Oh, dude, that sounds awesome.
And after midnight, we're gonna play a secret set, and it's gonna be a secret what the songs are gonna be.
Okay.
Super secret.
Yeah.
Super secret.
Well, you heard it here first. Secret set at New Year's Firehouse.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's gonna be great.
So, yeah, I don't understand how you find time to do all those things. How much time does the nonprofit take? What's a typical week for you look like?
There we
Oh,
go.
man.
There we go.
If there is a typical week.
Morning, from about 7 to 10, I am hanging out with the little boy,
Sure. Priorities.
Jesse Wallace. Yes, he's 16 months old.
Whew, buddy. Yeah.
He's awesome.
Oh, you got your hands full.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, it's great. I never really didn't give a whole lot of thought to doing that ever. And now
Parenthood,
that,
the
yeah,
whole thing.
and now that I am doing it, it's the favorite thing that I do.
Dude, that's all I've heard. Because we don't have kids, but everybody's like, man, when you have kids, you think about it one way until you're a parent, and then it's like your whole world changes.
Oh yeah,
And I've heard several people are like, why did we wait so long? This is awesome. It's like so much fun.
yeah. Well, that's cool because I didn't hear as much of that.
Well, when all your friends are single and childless, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't give a whole lot of advice about it, but I will say it's awesome. It's great. 10 a.m. His grandmother, again, support system in life, very huge. We don't take him to daycare. Don't need to just yet, so that's great. Biden's giving people some money to get by with have kids. That's also
Oh, yeah,
really
that's supposed
good.
to kick in this month, I think.
It kicked in.
Oh, it's already in. Okay.
Yeah,
Sick.
oh yeah.
Awesome,
yeah. But that being said, 10 a.m., his grandmother comes over. I head in. I usually have a student or two. I teach a couple kids that are homeschooled and that don't need to work around school hours, and I teach a couple of adults if I can work them in to my schedule.
Yeah,
at
what's
that
the
time.
age range for your students?
Well, the nonprofit, I mean, we've very clearly identified that we want to reach kids from 9 to 18. I do teach a couple of kids younger than 9.
Wow.
It's weird, in that sort of 6 to 8 age range.
You get a
there's
couple of
lot
5-year-olds that pick up a guitar?
Just
Well,
shredding.
It happens for the most part. If you're 5, you can't do it.
Yeah.
But some kids
Some
can.
can.
Get some
Yeah.
prodigies in there.
Yeah. I just started teaching drums to a kid who is 6, and I didn't think it was going to work out. But he's great.
When I imagine a 6-year-old on a drum set,
it's not good.
He even reach
Right.
the pedals? That's crazy.
Well, he listens to Pantera too.
Yeah. That's funny.
good
It's
parenting.
great.
Yeah,
It's great. The kid's great.
That's
And-
us. Dad brought us up on.
Yeah, my dad plays drums. He's played drums my whole life.
Oh, great.
and so we were raised in a music household.
Hair Thrasher and
Oh, dude, yeah, we got blackmail for days. Old home
Yeah.
videos. and
shout
stuff.
out Dad. That's how I found out Maylene.
Oh, yeah.
Was through
yeah.
Dad of all
Maylene,
people.
wow.
I know, right?
Oh, Dad.
Yeah, shout
Yeah.
out Dad.
Yeah. Dad.
So teaching during
Yeah,
the
so I
day.
teach during the day. I've got I try to take the lunch hour and devote that to administrative stuff. I mean, we've got we have payroll and all other things to deal with now, which is really great.
How many people on staff?
7 teachers and
Oh wow, man, you guys are huge.
4 like very part-time interns.
Yeah.
That are just awesome people.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I teach all afternoon and I usually lock up about 6:30.
Head to band practice.
Head to band practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Practice for a few hours.
At this point, I'm trying to schedule. I'll say again, plugging the parenthood. Once he goes to bed, I like to try and get home and be around for dinner time. And then he goes to bed, and go band practice.
Peace.
Do whatever you want. Yeah,
Yeah.
Go to the bar, which I don't do as much of these days. But
Well, you don't have time, so
No.
it's probably a good thing. Then.
I mean, I could make time. You can always make. You can always make time.
Yeah, who needs sleep, right?
Yeah, but it's good. Life is very good for me. I don't have any complaints.
That's awesome, man. Really cool. Besides the show on New Year's Eve at the Firehouse, anything else coming up this month that you guys have? How many shows do you guys average per month?
There's like 2 or 3 a week.
2 or 3. Yeah. 2 or 3 a week.
That's a
Wow.
lot.
Okay, that's more than I thought.
3's a full week. 2's a normal week, I'd say. And again, like huge testament to Kaon and everyone that runs the shows and takes care of the space.
So if somebody wanted to find out, you said that was run through DIY Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? I guess there's a calendar you can go on and kind of see.
Yeah, they're
the
great
events
about
coming up.
they'll post something that you every month that you can screenshot pretty easily.
Cool, but
And,
that you wouldn't find. We got the Firehouse community page.
Yeah,
but that's kind of a separate.
right. The
entity.
community arts center is think of that as the upstairs and the Firehouse DIY Birmingham downstairs.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't really know what the divide was there.
Well, and it's cool that there's not really a strict one, because how cool is it to learn music from the people playing it in the place where it gets played?
Do you have a lot of your students that book shows or play downstairs with
Yep.
the bands and stuff? I would imagine. So,
I mean,
but-
that's the dream, right?
Yeah,
Just
man.
to finish, like, learn and then go do it.
Do you graduate? Is there like an end goal? When you have
there's
these students?
there is an end goal, and
Yeah.
I tell every single kid when I first meet them, and some have succeeded more than you would think. That, hey, my goal is for you to be better than me one day. So, I mean, there are kids out there that could play circles around me.
Okay. I didn't know if it's like a traditional kind of education layout where you have like, I don't know, man. I guess you can always keep learning music and getting better and getting
Yeah,
better.
I mean, that's why I still like to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have, I wouldn't call it 100% traditional method of teaching music, because I don't think that mastery.
I'm not gonna learn about Beethoven if I come take a class with you.
I could tell you the story that I learned in the movie or whatever, but yeah, for me, it's all about recreating that moment when you hear your buddy playing the drums behind your guitar for the first time, when you write a song and stand on a stage and play it.
all
in front
comes
of people.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that puts you, that if you can do that, I mean, just the amount of confidence that you have as a young person goes through the roof, and the empathy I think that you have for other people is it changes when you learn how to create with other people and you learn how to perform.
Learning a lot of patience, I guess, in those situations.
Oh yeah, well, I learned that, and that helps with the whole, parenthood thing. But yes, that's the whole goal of teaching, is not to teach to a certain level of mastery of an instrument, but to offer mentorship in a life in music. Hey, everyone here, not just me now, is someone that you can look to as an example of what a life in music looks like. I look around at my life, and 95% of the most important relationships that I have something to do with music. You know, I didn't play in Guns N' Roses, and if you come up defining your own success as playing in amphitheaters every night, then you know it's kind of unrealistic. But there is a very realistic, positive outcome to having a life as a musician, and
that's a cool way to look at it. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had anybody kind of put it that way. You know, because from an outsider's perspective, you think the goal is like amphitheaters, like that's where I got to get to.
Yeah, no,
you know, in my music career.
God, yeah. I mean, look what happens to everybody who does that. If you think about it,
yeah,
it's not good. But you know, my life's been great, and that's because I have a lot of great friends, and all of my great friends, I played with them, or I know I met
music
them
is like
on tour.
The common thread, I guess, between most of your important relationships,
right? Or things I've witnessed, or been in or places I've been to.
You said you did a lot of touring.
Yeah. I've been in a lot of bands.
Cool places that you've gotten to visit. That stand out, maybe.
Yeah, the shitty ones always stand out
the
the
ones,
most.
the horror stories of breaking
Nick.
down in the desert.
I've been to the Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been
The
to
Nick.
a lot,
That's
to all the
funny.
places.
The old Nick.
Yeah.
Isn't the partner of the person who started the Nick opening another place? It's like a woman's
The
name.
John or something?
No, it's like
No.
it's. I don't know why I even brought that up. I don't know enough about it. Anyways,
Great.
I guess
I don't
you don't know
know,
anything
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I think the co-owner of the Nick is opening another bar under a female's name. That's
The Jan.
the Jan, the
Welcome to
Sarah,
the
the
Jan.
something.
The Sarah.
I don't know what it was. I don't know where I
Okay.
read that.
Well,
Ignore that.
I mean, yeah, sounds great.
Is there anybody else in town that is doing anything similar to what you guys are doing? I know that, I don't know if it's still going on, but years back at Workplay, they had like the rock school, and that was
Yeah.
like geared towards getting kids playing and stuff. Is there anybody else in town that's still doing something similar to what you guys are doing?
You tell me, man.
You're in the know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I like anyone who's teaching music. I'm all about it.
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
really positive. I think anything though that turns music into, that puts it in the same category as like your baseball team or your other after school activities that you need to check off is
Maybe they're not looking at it in the way that you are, as far
Yeah.
as like a lifestyle.
yeah. Again, I
change.
support anybody learning music from anybody. When my students say that they're looking on YouTube, is that okay? I'm like, yes, my God.
No, you cannot use it.
Right.
You only learn music here. You're
Yeah.
gonna learn it wrong.
Yeah, but you know, if I don't really, I don't see as much value in signing up for like a 3-month program where, like, oh hey, our baseball team needs a shortstop, our band needs a bass player. Like, you go there, you go there. I don't know if that's as. Again, to me, the important thing is those relationships, and even standing back in my position now and watching kids meet each other at the Firehouse and then say like, oh, what's that thing you're playing? Like, what's that song? Let me try to play drums while you do that. And
That's
then
cool.
forge a relationship, and just watching everything that comes out of that.
Just kind
is
of
pretty cool.
naturally.
Yeah, that's
kinda
so rad.
Blossom. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And I think, you know, the biggest goal for me would be 20 years from now, somebody in somewhere far away writing an article about like, my God, why are all these weird, cool bands coming from Birmingham, Alabama?
I think we got a pretty rad scene.
Absolutely.
Before we got going, I mentioned the Porch Talk podcast that
Yeah.
we did, and learned a lot from that. Really awesome podcast for anybody that doesn't know. Check it out, especially if you're into music. You guys kind of talked about the Birmingham scene, and I don't know if the guy who does that podcast is originally from Birmingham, but one thing that he mentioned that stood out to me was like, man, all these cool bands are coming out of Birmingham. I got to go see what's going on down there and stuff. And
Yeah,
really cool
I remember when Alan said that, and
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you think about a lot of the great, like the historically great music scenes or whatever, you'll hear of people that were part of them just saying like, I had to go figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah. Well, maybe we're in something like that going on. We don't realize.
I mean, maybe so, but then again, I hope not, because it's like, have you been to Nashville?
Yeah,
lately?
dude, it's wild.
Yeah.
So, what's the future of the Firehouse? You mentioned earlier that the you guys are trying to get the recording studio going. Have you guys already started on that project? Or
No, we have plans.
Have plans. Okay.
And that's a big part of the goal. For this fundraiser, we want to build the recording studio, and then every single dollar that we make past that is scholarships, funding scholarships.
And if people wanted to give or get involved, what's the best way to do that?
The best way to do that is to go to our website, firehousecac.org. It's like Community Arts Center. And there's a donate button there. My phone number is on that website. You could text me, and if you feel like you have anything that you could give, or that you like, any way that you want to be a part, then I would love to hear from you.
Awesome, man. Well, cool. Well, dude, this has been eye-opening conversation, really rad.
Cool.
I look forward to getting a tour.
And
kind of seeing what all you guys
like
have
I
going
said,
on. It's awesome.
Any day.
Sweet.
Come on by like after 3.
After 3. Okay, sweet. Now, do you guys have stuff going on 7 days a week?
Mostly,
Or is it just
I mean,
during
yeah,
the
we
week
do.
when
We
shows aside, I guess.
yes, on Sundays, Shaheed and Supreme do a really cool knowledge rhythm understanding class, which is this thing. They have their own nonprofit that they do, and they use the Firehouse.
Okay, cool.
do
Yeah, I
that.
follow them, and I see them. They go to like local schools, and they're all over the place doing things.
Yeah, it's great.
awesome.
So they're at the Firehouse on Sundays, every other Sunday, and then weekdays, we're teaching all day. So.
And if somebody wanted to look into becoming a student,
Yeah, but there's a sign-up form on the website.
and you said the age is typically geared between 9
and 18, and we have a scholarship fund for anyone who lives in our service area, which is the 3 neighborhoods of Avondale.
So for all our 80-year-old listeners who want to pick up a bass guitar or learn how to play drums, is there a place for people who are kind of outside of that age bracket, maybe a 19 or 20-year-old, or maybe even older, that wants to learn? Is there an outlet?
There probably is, and I have some of the most fun of my weeks teaching.
Just doing like private lessons.
Teaching private lessons to adults. I really do. But again, I just
you got to put your focus somewhere.
yeah,
I
that's
guess.
our focus.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, awesome. Thanks for coming to sit down and talk with us, man.
This is a great thing you guys are doing.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And having people like you come on and talk about what you guys got going on in the community. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So, cool. Really rad. Thanks.
Thanks, man.